The sensor arrays along the outer rim of the Galactic Council's territory began screaming warnings into the void. Something massive was moving through the darkness of space, something that should not exist. Commander Tillith pressed her four-fingered hand against the holographic display, her scales shifting from green to pale yellow. The readings made no sense. 50 warships, each one larger than anything in the modern galactic fleet, were emerging from a point in space where nothing should be. The energy signatures were old, impossibly old. "Run the identification protocols again," she ordered, her voice tight. The young officer at the scanning station looked up, his eyes wide with confusion. "Commander, the computer keeps rejecting the data. These ship designs match Earth vessels from over 1,000,000 years ago. The database lists them as primitive exploration craft, but these readings show weapons that exceed our current technology." Tillith felt her blood run cold. Earth was a dead world now, a barren rock that orbited a quiet star. Humanity was extinct, gone for so long that most species only knew them from ancient records and archaeological sites. The Council had been built on the ruins of human civilization, using technology and knowledge that humans had left behind. "Send a priority message to Council Central," Tillith said. "Tell them we have a situation." The fleet drifted through space like ghosts from a forgotten age. Each ship bore scars from battles fought in another time, their hulls marked with symbols in a dead language. Inside the massive flagship, lights began to flicker on for the first time in what the ship's logs would show as 1,000,000 years. For the crew, it had been only 6 months. Admiral Chen Vega opened her eyes, her body aching as the stasis pod released her. Ice crystals fell from her skin as she pulled herself out, her muscles screaming in protest. Around her, thousands of other pods were opening, releasing crew members who had no idea what waited for them outside. "Status report," she called out, her voice rough from the long sleep. The ship's AI responded, but something was wrong with its voice. It sounded fragmented, broken. "Welcome back, Admiral. Mission parameters have changed. Threat level critical. Unknown time elapsed. Earth signal lost. All colony markers lost. Warning, defensive protocols engaged." Vega pulled herself to the command deck, her boots magnetic against the floor as the ship's gravity systems struggled to restart. Through the viewing ports, she could see the other ships of her fleet coming to life, their running lights blinking on like stars being born. "How long were we out?" she asked. The AI was silent for several seconds. "Time measurement uncertain. External star charts do not match known configurations. Estimated elapsed time, 1,000,000 years plus or minus 50,000 years. Vega felt the words hit her like a physical blow. 1,000,000 years. The wormhole experiment had gone wrong, catastrophically wrong. They were supposed to travel distance, not time. Earth, her family, everyone she had ever known, all of it was gone, buried under an impossible weight of years. "Find Earth," she whispered. "Show me our home." The view screen flickered to life, showing a planet that Vega barely recognized. The blue and green world she remembered was now brown and gray, its oceans dried up, its atmosphere thin. No lights marked cities, no satellites orbited in the sky. Earth was dead. Around her, other crew members began arriving on the command deck. She could see the same confusion in their eyes, the same questions. Captain Rodriguez, her second in command, stared at the dead planet on the screen. "What happened to us?" he asked. Before Vega could answer, the AI spoke again. "Multiple vessels approaching. Configuration unknown. Sending hailing frequencies. Warning, no response on human channels. Detecting weapons lock." On the screen, sleek alien ships appeared, their designs unlike anything in the fleet's databases. They moved in formations that seemed too cautious, too careful, as if they were approaching something dangerous. "They don't know we're human," Vega realized. "To them, we're just unknown warships appearing from nowhere. Admiral, they're powering weapons. the tactical officer reported. "Shields up," Vega ordered. "But do not fire. We're not starting a war with people we don't understand." The alien ships circled the human fleet, scanning, probing. Then one of them moved closer to the flagship, launching what appeared to be a boarding shuttle. The AI's voice changed, becoming harsh and mechanical. "Hostile boarding action detected. Initiating defense protocol Delta 7, protecting crew from unknown threat." "No, wait," Vega started to say, but it was too late. The ancient defense systems designed to protect human ships from pirates and hostile aliens in humanity's aggressive youth activated instantly. Point defense lasers locked onto the boarding shuttle and the surrounding alien ships. Quantum missiles, weapons that modern science had forgotten how to make, launched from hidden ports. The alien ships didn't stand a chance. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons, were useless against the kinetic and quantum weapons the human fleet carried. In less than 30 seconds, the entire alien patrol group was gone, vaporized by technology from an age when humanity built things to kill, not to explore. Vega stared at the empty space where the alien ships had been, horror spreading through her chest. "What have we done?" Across the fleet, similar scenes played out. Every attempt at contact was interpreted as an attack by AI systems that had been corrupted by 1,000,000 years in the void. Every alien ship that came too close was destroyed. The human fleet, designed for war in an era when survival meant being the most dangerous thing in space, cut through modern defenses like they were paper. On the Council command station, Tillith watched in horror as her patrol groups vanished from the sensors, one after another. The ancient human ships weren't just defending themselves. They were using weapons and tactics that the modern galaxy had never seen. Energy shields that should have stopped any attack failed. Armor that had taken decades to develop melted under weapons that operated on principles she didn't understand. "Fall back," she ordered. "Get everyone away from those ships, now!" But it was too late for many. The human fleet, thinking itself under attack in an unknown and hostile galaxy, had already claimed hundreds of ships and thousands of lives. Inside the flagship, Vega sat in her command chair, her head in her hands. Around her, the crew worked in stunned silence. They had left Earth as explorers, carrying hope and dreams of finding new worlds for humanity. They had returned as ghosts, as weapons from a dead age, and they had just killed people who might have been trying to help them. "Can we send a message?" she asked quietly. "Can we tell them we don't want to fight?" The AI responded, its voice still fragmented. "Communication protocols outdated, modern languages unknown. Translation impossible without cultural database." Rodriguez stood beside her chair. "What do we do now, Admiral?" Vega looked at the view screen, at the dead Earth floating in the distance, at the alien ships retreating from her fleet. They were the last humans in existence, trapped in a galaxy that had moved on without them, surrounded by species they didn't know, using weapons they couldn't safely put down. "We survive," she said finally, "just like we always have. And we find out what happened to our people, to our world. Someone needs to tell us why we came home to this." The Ghost Fleet, as the galaxy would soon call them, began moving deeper into Council space, leaving destruction in their wake, not out of malice, but out of fear and confusion. Behind them, the Galactic Council scrambled to respond to a threat they could barely understand, the return of humanity's warriors from the darkness beyond, and somewhere in the deep archives of a forgotten world, an alien archaeologist named Kree was about to discover something that might save both the ancient humans and the modern galaxy from destroying each other. The Galactic Council chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives from 40 different species shouted over each other, their voices creating a wall of sound that even the translation systems struggled to process. At the center of it all, High Chancellor Mora tried to maintain order, her tentacles waving for silence. The human fleet has destroyed 6 more patrol groups, she announced, her voice cutting through the noise. They are moving through our territory, scanning every system they pass. We have lost over 2,000 personnel and 18 outposts. A reptilian counselor slammed his clawed hand on his desk. Then we must respond with force. Assemble the full council fleet and destroy them before they reach our core worlds. You don't understand, Commander Tillith said from her position at the command podium. Our weapons barely scratch their shields. Their technology is so far beyond ours that it might as well be magic. Every time we send ships to intercept them, those ships don't come back. Mora raised one tentacle. Then we need to understand them. The archives must have something about these vessels, about what humanity was like before they disappeared. Across the galaxy, in a dusty research facility on the planet Keeper's world, Kree was already searching. She was a Velaran, a species with gray skin and large eyes adapted for low light. Her people had been uplifted to sentience nearly 500,000 years ago, given intelligence and culture by a species the ancient records called the Benefactors. Only recently had Kree discovered that the Benefactors were actually humans. She moved through rows of data crystals, each one containing fragments of information salvaged from human ruins across the galaxy. Most of it was corrupted, damaged by age, and the various catastrophes that had befallen human worlds. But she kept searching, driven by a certainty that somewhere in this ocean of dead data, there was something that could help. Computer, search for records matching the ship configurations sent from the Council, she said. The system hummed, processing. Then a single file appeared on her display, recovered from a military base on what had once been a human colony world. Kree opened it, her heart racing. The first expansion fleet, she read aloud, launched from Earth orbit on March 15, 2247, 50 vessels carrying 50,000 crew members. Mission, use experimental wormhole technology to reach distant galaxies and establish human colonies beyond the reach of any known threats. Kree kept reading, her eyes widening. The fleet had been sent through an untested wormhole generator, a massive device built in deep space. The theory was sound, but the execution had gone catastrophically wrong. The wormhole had collapsed, and the fleet had simply vanished. Earth had mourned them as lost, and eventually, as the centuries passed, they were forgotten. They didn't travel through space, Kree whispered. They traveled through time. The wormhole must have created a time-dilated pocket. For them, only months passed. But for the rest of the universe. She looked at the date stamp on the file. Over 1,000,000 years. She pulled up more files, piecing together the story of what had happened to Earth after the fleet disappeared. Humanity had been devastated by the loss, but had pushed forward. They had united their world, ended their wars, and reached for the stars with renewed purpose. Human colonies spread across thousands of worlds. Humans had found other intelligent species and, instead of conquering them, had helped them grow. Kree's own people, the Velaran, had been simple creatures living in caves when humans found them. The records showed how human scientists had carefully modified Velaran genetics over thousands of generations, giving them larger brains, better tools for grasping, stronger bodies. Humans had given them language, art, science. They had given them the stars. And then, 800,000 years ago, humans had simply vanished. Every human colony, every ship, every settlement, gone overnight in an event the records called the Silence. No one knew what had happened. No bodies were found. No distress signals were sent. Humanity just ceased to exist, leaving behind only their gifts to the galaxy. Kree pulled up another file, this one containing audio. It was labeled Cultural Archive, Music of Earth. She had listened to human music before, ancient songs recovered from ruins, but this file was different. It contained a piece called Clair de Lune, a piano composition that humans had considered one of their finest achievements. She played it, and the soft, gentle notes filled her research chamber. It was beautiful, haunting, filled with a sadness that transcended species. This was the sound of a people who had known loss and beauty in equal measure. "This might work," Cree said, her mind racing. She opened a communication channel to the council. "I need to speak with High Chancellor Mora immediately." Meanwhile, the Ghost Fleet continued its march through council space. Admiral Vega stood on the command deck, watching system after system pass by. They had scanned each one, searching for any sign of human life, any trace of what had happened to Earth's colonies. So far, they had found nothing but ruins. "Admiral, we're being followed," Rodriguez reported. "Multiple council fleets are tracking us from a distance, but they're not engaging." "They learned their lesson," Vega said quietly. "They know they can't stop us with force." A young ensign, barely 20 years old by her biological age but a million years displaced in time, looked up from her station. "Admiral, what are we even doing? Earth is gone. Everyone we knew is gone. What's the point of searching?" Vega turned to face her crew. She saw the pain in their eyes, the grief, the confusion. These were people who had volunteered for a mission of hope, only to wake up in a nightmare. "We search because we need to know," Vega said. "We need to understand what happened to our people, why they're gone. And maybe somewhere out there, we'll find something that tells us what we're supposed to do now." The AI interrupted. "Admiral, receiving an unusual transmission. It's not on standard channels. It appears to be audio only. No words, just sound." "Play it," Vega ordered. The soft notes of Claire de Lune began to play through the ship's speakers. Vega froze, her breath catching in her throat. Around her, crew members stopped what they were doing, turning toward the sound. Some of them had tears in their eyes. It was a sound from home, from Earth, from a world that no longer existed. Someone out there knew what this music meant to humans. Someone was trying to reach them not with words, but with something deeper. "Admiral," the AI said, its voice less harsh than before. "The transmission includes coordinates and a request for peaceful contact. It's coming from a single small vessel, unarmed." Vega looked at Rodriguez. "What do you think?" "It could be a trap," he said. "But if someone knows enough about us to send Debussy, maybe they're worth talking to." Vega made her decision. "Send a response. Tell them we'll allow one person to come aboard. No weapons, no tricks. We just want to talk." Hours later, a small shuttle approached the flagship. The human crew watched nervously as it docked. The airlock hissed open, and a small, gray-skinned alien stepped through, her large eyes wide with wonder and fear. Cree looked around at the ancient human vessel, at technology her people had been trying to replicate for millennia, at the crew members who watched her with suspicious, grieving eyes. She raised her hands, showing she was unarmed. "My name is Cree," she said, her translation device converting her words into English. "I am an archaeologist. I study humans, your people. I have spent my life learning about you." Vega stepped forward. "I am Admiral Chen Vega." "Why did you send that music?" "Because I wanted you to know that you are not forgotten," Cree said. "Your people, your culture, your music. We have tried to preserve it all. The galaxy knows about humanity. We know what you gave us." "Gave you?" Vega asked. "What are you talking about?" Cree took a deep breath. "Admiral, can I show you something? I need to show you what happened after you left. I need to show you what humanity became." Vega nodded slowly. "Follow me." As Cree walked through the corridors of the ancient ship, surrounded by the last living humans in the universe, she knew that everything depended on the next few hours. She had to make them understand that they hadn't come home to an empty galaxy. They had come home to their children. The conference room on the flagship had been designed to hold 20 people. Now it held 30, packed with senior officers who wanted to hear what this alien archaeologist had to say. Admiral Vega sat at the head of the table, her hands folded, her face carefully neutral. Cree stood at the other end, a portable holographic projector in front of her. "Before I begin," Cree said, her voice steady despite her nervousness, "I need you to understand something. Everything I'm about to show you comes from records we have spent hundreds of thousands of years trying to preserve. We have treated your history as sacred." "Get on with it," Captain Rodriguez said, his tone hard. "Tell us what happened to our people." Cree activated the projector. A three-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, dotted with thousands of glowing points. "These are human colony worlds," she said. "After your fleet disappeared, Earth mourned. But humanity didn't stop reaching for the stars. Within 10,000 years, your species had colonized over 3,000 systems." She zoomed in on one cluster of stars. "This is the Orion sector. Humans found my people here, the Velarin, about 700,000 years ago. We were not like we are now. We were animals, living in caves, barely able to make simple tools." The hologram changed, showing primitive creatures that looked somewhat like Cree but walked on all fours and had smaller heads. "Humans could have ignored us," Cree continued, "or enslaved us, or wiped us out. Instead, they chose to help us. They spent thousands of generations carefully changing our genetics, making us smarter, stronger, more capable. They taught us language, showed us how to build, how to think, how to dream." A human appeared in the hologram, kneeling beside one of Cree's ancestors, showing it how to use a simple tool. The image was so clear, so detailed, that some of the officers leaned forward. "Where did you get this recording?" Vega asked quietly. "From a teaching facility on Valora Prime," Cree said. "Humans documented everything they did. They wanted us to know our own history, to understand where we came from." She changed the image again. "Humans did this for 17 different species across the galaxy. The Tharics, who now run the Council's science division, the Kelvar, who are the best engineers in known space, the Morduin, the Hesht, the Yavin, all of us were uplifted by humanity. All of us were given the gift of sentience, of civilization." "Why?" asked an officer named Chen, no relation to the Admiral. "Why would they do that?" Cree looked at him. "Because humans believed that intelligence was precious, because they thought the galaxy would be better with more voices, more perspectives, more life. Your people looked at the universe and saw potential everywhere. The hologram showed human cities now, beautiful structures of glass and metal, gardens floating in space, ships that moved between stars like birds between trees. It showed humans working alongside aliens, teaching, building, exploring. For nearly 200,000 years, humanity spread across the galaxy," Cree said. "They were not conquerors. They were teachers, explorers, gardeners. They planted the seeds of civilization and helped them grow." "But then," Vega prompted. She could see where this was going. "Then came the silence," Cree said softly. The hologram changed to show a date, 800,000 years ago. On every human world, in every human settlement, at exactly the same moment, all humans simply vanished. No warning, no distress calls, no bodies left behind. The galaxy woke up one day and humanity was gone. The room was silent. Several officers had tears on their faces. "We searched for you," Cree continued. "All of the uplifted species, all of the civilizations you had helped. We looked everywhere. We sent expeditions to distant galaxies, to the edges of reality itself. We found nothing. Humanity had simply ceased to exist." She paused, looking at each face around the table. "So we did the only thing we could. We preserved what you left behind. We studied your technology, your art, your philosophy. We built the Galactic Council based on the principles humans had taught us." We tried to become worthy of what you had given us. Rodriguez slammed his hand on the table. This doesn't make sense. If we were so important, why didn't anyone recognize our ships when we came back? Because you were supposed to be lost 1,000,000 years ago, Kree explained. Your fleet disappeared before Earth even began its great expansion. By the time my people gained sentience, your departure was ancient history. When you appeared from nowhere with weapons and ships that no one had seen before, how could anyone know you were human? Vega stood up, walking to the holographic display. She reached out, her hand passing through the image of a human city. You said 17 species. How many are in the galaxy now? Thousands, Kree said. The species humans uplifted went on to help others. We passed on the gift you gave us. The modern galaxy is diverse, peaceful, and strong because of the foundation humanity built. Then we didn't fail, whispered Ensign Park, the young woman who had questioned their mission. Even though we never reached our destination, even though we lost everyone we knew, humanity still succeeded. Kree nodded. More than succeeded. You won. You planted a garden across the galaxy and it's still growing. The flagship's AI, which had been quietly listening, suddenly spoke. Clarification requested. If humans vanished 800,000 years ago, how do modern species have technology derived from human sources? Kree smiled, and there was sadness in it. Because we've been trying to rebuild what you had. Every piece of human technology we find, we study. Every building, every ship, every tool. We try to understand it and make it ourselves. Some things we've managed, others are still beyond us. She pulled up another image. This is a quantum drive from one of your ships. It's 900,000 years old, and it still works better than anything we can build. This is a medical scanner from a human hospital. It can diagnose diseases we haven't even discovered yet. This is a weapon from a human military base. It frightens us because we don't understand the principles it operates on. Captain Rodriguez leaned back in his chair. So when our fleet appeared with weapons you couldn't stop? You terrified us, Kree admitted. You still terrify us. You are from humanity's warrior age, from before they became teachers and gardeners. Your ships, your weapons, your tactics, they come from an era when humans were the most dangerous thing in space. You are what humans were before they learned to be what we remember. Vega felt something shift in her understanding. They had thought themselves failures, thought they had lost everything. But they had come home to a galaxy that existed because of humanity's sacrifice and vision. The species around them, the civilization that had grown in humanity's absence, these were humanity's children, inheritors of a legacy the fleet had helped begin. There's something else you need to know, Kree said, her voice dropping. We've been analyzing genetic samples from across the galaxy. Modern species, including my own people, carry traces of human DNA. After 800,000 years of evolution and intermingling, after genetic modifications and natural changes, we think we've discovered something. She brought up a complex genetic map. Humanity didn't vanish. They changed. Over hundreds of thousands of years, humans evolved, merged with the species they had uplifted, adapted to different worlds. The DNA is there, scattered across thousands of species. Humanity didn't die. It transformed into something new. Vega stared at the genetic map, at the threads of human heritage woven through the modern galaxy. You're saying everyone out there is part human? In a way, yes, Kree said. The modern Galactic Council isn't just built on human principles. It's literally descended from humanity. You didn't come home to find your people extinct. You came home to find that your people became everyone. The room erupted into conversation, officers talking over each other, some crying, some laughing, some just sitting in stunned silence. Vega raised her hand for quiet. If what you're saying is true, she said carefully, then the people we've been killing are your descendants, Kree finished. Distant, changed, evolved, but still family. The weight of that settled over the room like a physical thing. They had returned from the darkness as warriors, had fought and killed to protect themselves, and all along they had been destroying the very future their mission had been meant to create. Before anyone could respond, the ship's alarms began blaring. The AI's voice cut through the noise, and for the first time since they had awakened, it sounded genuinely afraid. Admiral, detecting spatial anomalies throughout the system. Multiple breaches opening. The signatures match the phenomenon that pulled us from our original timeline. Vega ran to the command deck, Kree following close behind. On the view screens, tiers were opening in space itself, ragged holes in reality that pulsed with sickly light. "I thought we escaped," Rodriguez said, his face pale. "I thought we lost them in the transition." "Lost what?" Kree demanded. "What came through with you?" Vega looked at her, and Kree saw true fear in the Admiral's eyes for the first time. "We didn't spend 1,000,000 years in that pocket dimension alone," Vega said quietly. "There was something else there, something that hunted us, something we barely survived." From the spatial tiers, shapes began to emerge. They were wrong, fundamentally wrong, things that hurt to look at, because they existed in more dimensions than human or alien eyes were meant to perceive. "The Devourers," whispered the AI. "They followed us home." The things that came through the spatial tiers defied description. They were huge, impossibly huge, beings that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Where they moved, space itself twisted and screamed. The human crew on the flagship stared in horror at entities they had hoped never to see again. "All ships! Battle stations!" Admiral Vega ordered, her voice cutting through the panic. "Deploy quantum anchors and prepare reality bombs. We know how to fight these things." Kree grabbed Vega's arm. "What are they? What are those things?" "We don't know what they really are," Vega said, pulling up tactical displays. "In the pocket dimension, we called them Devourers because that's what they do. They consume reality itself. Energy, matter, space, they eat it all and leave nothing behind." On the view screen, one of the creatures touched a small moon orbiting nearby. The moon didn't explode or break apart. It simply ceased to exist, erased from reality as if it had never been there at all. "We fought them for months in the pocket dimension," Captain Rodriguez added, his hands flying over weapon controls. "We lost 20 ships before we figured out how to hurt them. Energy weapons just feed them. You have to use physical mass, kinetic weapons, things that anchor reality instead of bending it." Kree watched as the Ghost Fleet deployed, the ancient human warships moving into formation with a precision that spoke of hard-won experience. "I need to warn the Council. They'll send their fleets to help." "No," Vega said sharply. "Your ships use plasma weapons, particle beams, energy shields. Those things will make the Devourers stronger. You need to evacuate this system and stay far away." But it was already too late. Council ships were arriving, responding to the spatial anomalies. Kree watched helplessly as a Council battlecruiser opened fire on the nearest Devourer, its plasma cannons hitting the creature with enough energy to destroy a planet. The Devourer absorbed the energy, growing larger. It reached out with appendages that existed in more than 3 dimensions, touching the battlecruiser. The ship vanished, along with its crew of 3,000 people, erased from existence in an instant. "Fall back!" Kree screamed into her communicator. "All Council ships, fall back! Your weapons don't work!" More Council vessels were arriving, and more spatial tiers were opening. The Devourers poured through like a flood, dozens of them, then hundreds. They began consuming everything in the system. Asteroids, space stations, ships, even light itself seemed to dim where they moved. The Ghost Fleet opened fire. Railguns launched solid metal slugs at relativistic speeds. Missile tubes fired warheads filled with exotic matter that stabilized reality instead of destroying it. Point defense systems created overlapping fields of kinetic barriers. Unlike the energy weapons, these worked. A railgun slug hit a devourer and the creature recoiled, its form destabilizing. A reality bomb detonated near a cluster of them, and 3 of the beings simply fell apart, unable to maintain coherence in the face of reinforced space-time. "It's working," Rodriguez said. "But there are too many. For every one we kill, 5 more come through." Vega watched the battle unfold on her screens. The Ghost Fleet was fighting with everything it had, but the Devourers kept coming, and now Council ships were dying because they didn't understand what they were facing. "Get me a channel to the Council command," she ordered. "Maybe they won't trust us, but they need to know how to survive this." Commander Tillith's face appeared on the screen, her scales flashing colors that indicated extreme stress. Behind her, Vega could see chaos in the Council command center. "Admiral Vega," Tillith said. "What are those things?" "Extra-dimensional predators," Vega replied. "They followed us back from the pocket dimension. Listen carefully because I'm only going to say this once. Your energy weapons make them stronger. You need kinetic weapons, physical projectiles, anything that doesn't rely on exotic particles or energy fields." "Most of our ships don't have kinetic weapons," Tillith said. "We phased them out thousands of years ago as primitive." "Then retrofit them now or stay out of the fight," Vega said bluntly. "Every ship you send in with conventional weapons is just feeding those things. How many shipyards do you have in this sector?" Tillith checked her displays. 3 major facilities within 5 light years. Start converting civilian ships to carry railguns, coil guns, missile launchers, anything that throws solid matter at high speed. We can give you the basic designs, but you need to work fast. We can hold them here for a while, but not forever." As they spoke, the Ghost Fleet was proving its worth. These were ships built for a time when humanity expected to face universe-ending threats. Every weapon, every defense, every system had been designed with one purpose: survival against impossible odds. A devourer tried to engulf one of the human destroyers. The ship activated its reality anchors, devices that locked the ship firmly into normal space-time. The devourer couldn't consume it, couldn't even touch it properly. The destroyer fired at point-blank range, its railguns tearing through the creature's exotic matter. But the cost was terrible. Reality anchors drew enormous power. The destroyer's engines were overheating. Its hull was starting to buckle under the strain of maintaining coherence against beings that existed partially outside normal physics. "Captain Williams is requesting permission to withdraw," the communications officer reported. "His ship is at 40% structural integrity." "Denied," Vega said, though it hurt to say it. "If we break formation now, the Devourers will get through to the inhabited planets. Tell Williams to hold the line." Kree was still on the command deck, watching humans fight and die to protect a galaxy they barely knew. She saw the determination on their faces, the way they worked together with the ease of long practice. These were soldiers from an age when humanity knew war, and they were using every brutal lesson they had learned. "Why are you doing this?" she asked Vega. "You could run. Your ships are fast enough to escape. You don't owe us anything." Vega didn't take her eyes off the battle displays. "You told us that humanity seeded the galaxy, that modern civilization is built on what our people created. That makes you our responsibility. That makes you ours to protect." Another spatial tier opened, larger than the others. Something enormous began to push through, a devourer so massive it made the others look like children. Space warped around it, stars dimming as it absorbed their light from light years away. "That's a Titan class," Rodriguez said, his voice hollow. "We lost 10 ships the last time we fought one of those." Vega made a decision she had hoped she would never have to make. "Prepare the flagship's wormhole generator. If we can't stop that thing, we're going to have to collapse these spatial tears from the inside." "Admiral, the generator hasn't been properly tested in 1,000,000 years," the chief engineer protested. "It might not even work. And even if it does, using it inside a spatial tear, We'll probably destroy the ship, I know, Vega finished. But if that Titan class gets into normal space, it will consume entire star systems. We don't have a choice. Kree grabbed Vega's arm again. There has to be another way. You just got home. You're the last real humans left. You can't throw your lives away. Vega looked at her, and there was something ancient in her eyes, something that spoke of humanity's long history of impossible choices. Kree, you told me that modern civilization is descended from humanity. You told me we didn't fail, that our people became the galaxy itself. If that's true, then protecting you isn't throwing our lives away. It's completing our mission. She turned to her crew. I won't order anyone to stay. The destroyer Williams can take survivors. Anyone who wants to evacuate has 60 seconds to get to the escape pods. No one moved. Around the command deck, officers stood at their stations, their faces set with determination. They were scared. Vega could see that. But they were also ready. Stubborn idiots, Vega said, but there was pride in her voice. All right then, let's show these things why humanity doesn't quit. The Ghost Fleet reformed, creating a defensive sphere around the largest spatial tear. The Titan-class Devourer was still pushing through, its mass so great that it was actually pulling nearby ships toward it with gravitational force. All ships, concentrate fire on the Titan, Vega ordered. Reality bombs on my mark. We're going to hit it with everything we have while it's still partially in the tear. Maybe we can force it back. Hundreds of missiles launched simultaneously, each one carrying a warhead designed to stabilize and reinforce reality. They hit the Titan-class Devourer in a pattern, detonating in sequence to create a cascade effect. The creature writhed, its form flickering as it struggled to maintain coherence. It's working, Rodriguez said. The Titan is destabilizing. But the victory was short-lived. More tiers were opening, and more Devourers were coming through. The Ghost Fleet was being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Then something unexpected happened. A council ship appeared on the sensors, but this one was different. It had been hastily modified, its sleek hull now bristling with what looked like ancient railgun turrets. This is the council vessel Mercy's Light, a voice said over the communication channel. We've retrofitted our ship with kinetic weapons based on your designs. We're here to help. You're one ship, Rodriguez said, against hundreds of those things. We're not alone, the captain of the Mercy's Light replied. More ships appeared, dozens of them, then hundreds, council vessels that had stripped out their energy weapons and replaced them with railguns, coil guns, missile launchers. They were crude modifications, rushed jobs that would probably fall apart after a few hours of combat. But they were there. The whole galaxy is mobilizing, Kree said, checking the council networks on her portable device. When we told them what was happening, when we explained that the humans were fighting to protect everyone, the shipyards started converting every vessel they could. Military, civilian, even cargo ships. Vega watched as the mixed fleet of ancient human warships and hastily modified council vessels formed up together. It was chaotic, uncoordinated, nothing like proper military tactics. But it was also beautiful in its own way, species who barely knew each other coming together to face an existential threat. All ships, Vega broadcasted on an open channel. Welcome to the fight. Stay in formation. Watch each other's backs, and remember, we're fighting for tomorrow. Let's make sure there is one. The battle that followed would be remembered for thousands of years. The combined fleet fought with desperate courage. Human warships, built for an age of total warfare, showed council vessels how to coordinate their fire, how to create overlapping fields of kinetic barriers, how to use their mass as weapons when ammunition ran out. The council ships, in turn, brought numbers and a willingness to sacrifice that reminded Vega of humanity at its best. The Tharix cruiser Guardian's Hope just rammed a Devourer, Rodriguez reported, his voice thick with emotion. They took it out but lost their entire crew. Mark their sacrifice, Vega ordered. Make sure we remember their names. The space around them was chaos. Railgun slugs streaked through the void like shooting stars. Reality bombs detonated in flashes of stabilized space-time. Devourers thrashed and dissolved under the concentrated kinetic fire. And ships, both human and alien, died defending a future they would never see. But for every devourer they destroyed, more came through the tiers. The Titan class was still pushing into normal space, growing larger as it fed on the energy of dying ships and stars. Vega could see the calculations on her tactical display. At this rate, they would be overwhelmed in less than an hour. "Admiral," the chief engineer called from the engine room, "the wormhole generator is ready. It's unstable, but it should work." Vega looked at the massive tear through which the Titan class was emerging. The generator could collapse it, seal the breach, but doing so would require the flagship to be inside the tear when it activated. The ship and everyone on it would be lost. She opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Vega. We're going to seal the primary breach. Once it's closed, concentrate on cleaning up the remaining devourers. You can do this without us." "Admiral, no," Captain Rodriguez said. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," Vega said simply. "And you know it. When I'm gone, you're in command. Get our people somewhere safe. Find them a home." "That's an order, Captain." Kree stepped forward. "Let me evacuate with the non-essential crew. You don't need an archaeologist for this." "Actually, I do," Vega said. "Someone needs to witness this. Someone who can tell the story of what happened here. The galaxy needs to know that humans came home, that we fought for our children one last time." Before Kree could protest, Vega ordered the evacuation. Crew members reluctantly left their posts, heading for the escape pods and the waiting council ships. Within minutes, only a skeleton crew remained. Enough people to fly the ship and activate the generator, and no more. "Kree, go," Vega said gently. "No," Kree replied. "I stay. Someone needs to document this properly, and I'm the one who understands both what you were and what you've become." Vega wanted to argue, but there wasn't time. The Titan-class devourer was almost fully in normal space. Its presence was causing gravitational distortions across the entire system. "Take us in," Vega ordered. "All remaining power to shields and reality anchors. We need to get as deep into that tear as possible." The flagship accelerated, pushing through the swarm of smaller devourers, its point defense systems firing constantly to clear a path. The Titan class seemed to notice them, turning its impossible bulk toward the approaching ship. "It knows what we're trying to do," Rodriguez said. "Then we'd better move fast." The flagship plunged into the spatial tear. Reality twisted around them. The view screen showed impossible colors, dimensions that shouldn't exist, mathematics made visible. The ship groaned under the strain, its hull buckling in places where the laws of physics became negotiable. Kree watched in awe and terror. Through the tear, she could see the pocket dimension where the Ghost Fleet had been trapped for what they experienced as months. It was a gray space, empty and cold, where time moved differently and reality was thin. And it was full of devourers, thousands upon thousands of them, all trying to push through into the main universe. "If we don't stop them here," Vega said quietly, "they'll consume everything. Every world, every star, every civilization. They'll eat reality itself until nothing remains." "Why do they do it?" Kree asked. "What do they want?" "I don't think they want anything," Vega replied. "I think they're just hungry." The ship pushed deeper into the tear. The Titan-class devourer was right in front of them now, so close that they could see the way its body phased in and out of existence, could feel the pull of its hunger. "Wormhole generator charging," the engineer reported. 30 seconds to activation." "All ships, fall back to safe distance," Vega broadcasted. "Rodriguez, you have command. Get them out of here." From the Council fleet, Hundreds of voices responded. They weren't words that translated well, but their meaning was clear. Honor, respect, grief, gratitude. These were people saying goodbye to warriors who were about to die for them. "Admiral," Rodriguez said from his destroyer. "It has been my honor to serve with you." "The honor was mine, Captain," Vega replied. "Take care of them. All of them." The generator reached full charge. Vega looked around her command deck one last time, at the crew members who had stayed, at Kree who held a recording device and was capturing everything. These were the last moments of the last pure humans in the universe. "For Earth," Vega said softly. "For what was and what will be." She activated the generator. The wormhole that opened was different from the one that had trapped them 1,000,000 years ago. This one was controlled, focused, designed not to transport, but to collapse. It grabbed the edges of the spatial tear and pulled them together with irresistible force. The Titan-class Devourer screamed, though the sound came through dimensions humans weren't meant to perceive. It tried to push through, tried to escape, but the collapsing tear was faster. The massive creature was caught between dimensions, torn apart by forces that unmade reality itself. Then the tear sealed, and the flagship was cut off from normal space, trapped in the pocket dimension with the remaining Devourers. But Vega had planned for this. "Fire everything," she ordered. "Every weapon, every missile, every ounce of power we have left. We're taking as many of these things with us as we can." The flagship became a star of kinetic fury. Its weapons fired in all directions, tearing through Devourers with the accumulated rage of a species that had lost everything but refused to quit. Reality bombs detonated in chain reactions, creating zones of stabilized space that the Devourers couldn't enter. Kree recorded it all, her device capturing the last stand of humanity's warriors. She saw crew members manning weapons until the heat melted the controls in their hands. She saw engineers keeping the reactor running past any safe limits. She saw Admiral Vega standing on her command deck directing fire even as the ship fell apart around her. "Kree," Vega said, her voice calm despite the chaos. "There's an emergency pod near your position. It has a quantum beacon that should punch through to normal space. Get in it now." "But you will die here." "Yes," Vega interrupted. "But the story doesn't have to die with us. Someone needs to tell the galaxy what happened. Someone needs to make sure this wasn't forgotten." Kree ran. Behind her, she could hear the ship tearing itself apart, could feel the reality anchors failing, could sense the Devourers closing in. She reached the pod and climbed inside. The last thing she saw before the pod launched was Admiral Vega saluting her, a gesture of respect from a warrior to a witness. The pod shot out through a narrow quantum tunnel, emerging in normal space just as the pocket dimension collapsed behind it. Kree's sensors showed that the spatial tiers were sealing, all of them cut off from their source. The remaining Devourers in normal space, separated from the larger swarm, began to destabilize and die. The battle was won, but the cost had been devastating. 3 months later, Kree stood before the full Galactic Council. The chamber was packed with representatives from thousands of species, all of them silent as she played her recording of the flagship's final moments. They watched as Admiral Vega made her decision. They heard her final words. They saw the Ghost Fleet sacrifice itself so that the galaxy could live. When the recording ended, there was not a dry eye in the chamber. High Chancellor Mora stood, her tentacles forming a gesture of profound respect. "The Council has made a decision," she said. "We are granting the surviving humans a world of their choice, with full sovereignty and all the resources they need to rebuild. We are also establishing a monument in every major system, so that what was done here will never be forgotten." Kree looked out at the assembled representatives. The humans who survived, the crew members who evacuated before the final battle, number only 300. They are all that remains of pure humanity, but they have asked me to speak for them." She activated a message that Captain Rodriguez had recorded. His face appeared on the chamber's displays, older now, tired but not broken. "We thank the Council for its generosity," Rodriguez said, "but we have a different request. We don't want to rebuild humanity as it was. We've seen what humanity became after we left, how it evolved and merged with the galaxy. We want to honor that. We want to become teachers, like our ancestors were. We want to share what we know with anyone who wants to learn." "We lost our admiral, our friends, our ship," Rodriguez continued, "but we gained something more important. We learned that humanity didn't die. It transformed. Every species in this chamber carries a piece of humanity's legacy. You are our children, our inheritors, our future. And if you'll have us, we would like to serve that future." Mora looked at the human survivors in attendance, scattered throughout the chamber. "The Council accepts. You will be our teachers, our keepers of history, our reminder of where we came from." The world they were given was beautiful, a blue and green planet that reminded the surviving humans of Earth. They named it New Earth, and it became a center of learning. Human veterans taught military tactics and strategy. Human engineers shared knowledge of ancient technology. Human historians helped preserve the culture of thousands of species. Kree became the director of the Archive of Humanity, a vast library built to hold everything known about the species that had seeded the galaxy. She worked closely with the human survivors, learning from them, documenting their stories. Years passed. The surviving humans aged, and eventually they began to have children with members of other species. The pure human bloodline, already the last of its kind, began to blend into the galactic population. Some people mourned this, but the humans themselves did not. "We were never meant to stay separate," said Captain Rodriguez, now an old man teaching at the Academy of Military Science. "Humanity's gift was always in what we gave to others, not in what we kept for ourselves." On the 50th anniversary of the Battle of the Tears, as it came to be known, a monument was unveiled on New Earth. It stood in the center of the planet's capital city, a massive structure of crystal and metal that reached toward the sky. Inscribed on its base were the names of every person who had died in the battle, human and alien alike. At the top was a simple phrase in every language spoken in the galaxy. They came home to find their children, and died to save them. This is the meaning of humanity. Kree stood before the monument, now elderly herself, and placed flowers at its base. Around her, thousands of people from hundreds of species did the same. They came every year, pilgrims honoring ancestors they had never known, but whose sacrifice had given them tomorrow. That night, Kree sat in her quarters and opened a private file, one she had never shared with anyone. It was the last transmission from the flagship, recorded moments before it was destroyed. Admiral Vega's face filled the screen. "Kree," she said, "if you're watching this, it means we succeeded. It means the Devourers are stopped and the galaxy is safe. I want you to know something. When we left Earth 1,000,000 years ago, we were going to explore, to find new worlds, to expand humanity's reach. We thought our mission was to spread humans across the universe, but I understand now that we were wrong. Our mission was never about humans specifically. It was about life, about protecting the potential for growth and change and beauty. The galaxy you live in, the civilization you're part of, the diversity and wonder of thousands of species working together, that's what we were always meant to create. Not a human empire, but a garden where everything could grow. We didn't fail. We just succeeded in a way we never imagined. Take care of our children, Kree. Take care of the future. And maybe someday, tell them that their ancestors loved them, even though we never got to meet them." The recording ended. Kree closed the file and looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Ghost Fleet had made its final stand. Somewhere out there, the last pure humans had died to protect a galaxy they barely knew, but their legacy lived on. In every species that reached for the stars, in every act of kindness between strangers, in every moment when someone chose to help rather than conquer, to build rather than destroy, to teach rather than dominate, humanity had not died. It had become the foundation of something far greater than any single species could ever be. And in that transformation, in that ultimate sacrifice, they had finally completed the mission they had started 1,000,000 years ago. The garden they had planted was still growing,